Since YouTube doesn't like people to talk about nasty subjects, especially in the first couple of minutes of a video, I'm going to be to speak a little roundabout. And I am obviously not as talented at that as the speaker you're going to see in the rest of the video. But I shall start off by saying that in the light of the recent mistakes made by the Secret Service about a certain rally with an ex and probably soon to be president, I'm going to discuss DEI with you, and I'm going to start with a hearing at which a Biden judicial nominee is trying to give some answers to a rather sticky question. I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. So, first of all, folks, apologies for the weird lighting and the strange background. My computer, if you remember, died and I got a new one. Well, an old one, but you know what I mean. And now I'm at the moment migrating from the loaner to the new acquisition. So at the moment I'm using my other computer, and the lighting, I can see it's flaring off my hair and everything. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm very sorry. All right, let's just start with this.
State that, quoting now, Asian Americans needed SAT scores that were 140 points higher than white students, all other quantifiable variables being equal, to get into these elite schools. The same court filings also...
Okay, so that is just, I suppose most Americans know about this, an absolutely shocking instance of complete institutional racism. Just appalling. And this chap here, Hawley, is asking a judicial nominee about her opinions on this.
Is it a problem for universities to make it harder for members of a certain race to be admitted to their university, to do it deliberately? Is that a problem? That's what your article's about. I'm asking, you've expressed an opinion on this, so I'm just asking about your opinion. Don't you think that's a problem?
Senator, thank you for the question. The article was...
She answers everything to begin with thank you for the question. And that thank you for the question is an apparent politeness. It's not really a politeness. It's a spacing technique. She's using it to give herself a little bit of time to think. The Honourable Kelly Brisbane Hodge
was written in the context of really providing, in essence, a procedural roadmap.
Right. We'll start with this. Let's just go back to that and listen to the number of words she's used.
Senator, thank you for the question. The article was written in the context of really providing, in essence, a procedural roadmap of what had transpired.
Yep.
Right. What she said was... that article was written about something that was happening at the time. But she's using the word context. She's using the word transpired instead of happened. She's lengthening out as much as she can. I am actually having trouble understanding her, which is part of her technique, of course. Let's carry on.
Yeah, but you expressed, though, I'm sorry to interrupt, Justice, I've got so little time and I have the article in front of me. I enjoyed reading it, but you expressed your personal views, which is fine, by the way. I'm just asking about them. Your personal views on this case, and you say that the arguments of those who are arguing against Harvard's policies...
Just a minute, hit my microphone. I'll have to be more careful about that.
Are actually anti-diversity. You say that they fail to overcome a principle that's of paramount importance to the country. I'm quoting you now: diversity matters and its value is immeasurable, especially in education. Yeah.
So she said that diversity matters and its value is immeasurable. But she apparently is not talking about the sort of diversity that most people would think of. That is, everybody gets a chance. No, she is actually filtering out some people in the name of diversity.
Asking you whether or not having Asian Americans present and able to be admitted on a fair basis with members of other racial groups, if that isn't in fact an interest that serves diversity. I mean, don't you think that that's important?
Senator Hawley, to your question, and thank you again.
Thank you for your question.
What has been stated by the court through years of dialogue and deliberation over this specific issue of affirmative action is that diverse.
The court has been discussing this for a long time. That's what she just said. Do you want to hear that again?
Court, through years of dialogue and deliberation over this specific issue of affirmative action, is that diversity matters.
Right. Is that an answer to his question? What she said was, courts have been discussing for a long time that diversity matters. But that's not what he asked her. What he asked her was, do you think it's right that Asian applicants for the university should have been given the same chance as any other racial group? She's not answering that. And if you look at her face, you can see that she knows she's not answering that, but of course she does.
And does that include for Asian Americans?
For everyone.
And that's your personal opinion too?
I'm stating based upon how the court has, I'm not putting my personal opinion. I believe that if I'm so fortunate to be confirmed to the district court, that my personal opinion would have no role in the deliberations that I would conduct. I would base all of my decisions on the facts presented, the arguments presented by counsel and or the individual litigants, as well as the law, and apply the law and precedent to whatever's presented to me.
But surely you could agree with the statement at this level of generality that deliberate discrimination against Asian Americans is wrong. Is that fair to say?
Sarah Hawley, I say that...
Yes, no, she's not going to answer that straight, because that flies in the face of what she's already stated is her opinion. As much as you can winkle out what her opinion is, of course.
Discrimination is prohibited, and
let's do that again.
Deliberate discrimination against Asian Americans is wrong. Is that fair to say?
Sarah Hawley, I say that discrimination is prohibited, and people who are discriminated against.
She didn't say it was wrong. She said it was prohibited. And then, you see, you can argue about what discrimination is. If you say discrimination is wrong, you can't argue that in any case it's correct, it's right, it's to be applied. What she said was, it's prohibited. Look, assume that some mad councillor decides that a square foot of ground in the local park is not to be stepped on. And there's a little sign there saying, this area is prohibited, purely arbitrarily. And somebody walks across it. Is that prohibited? Yes. Is it wrong? No, not unless there's a good reason for it. You see, there's a difference. And that's what she's exploiting, that difference there.
I say that discrimination is prohibited.
Now, something else I've just picked up there. She said, I'd say that discrimination is... Well, first of all, she paused because she was trying to find another word. She couldn't say it was wrong because basically she believes that it isn't wrong when you apply it to Asian students, and that favours probably black students. There, I'm making an assumption, I suppose. But what she starts off by doing is saying, I'd say that, which is her opinion, not what is. And then she had to find the word prohibited. That's what she would say.
Are discriminated against under the law. Obviously, the work I also do.
And she's, again, talking about the law. So she's trying to find reasons to disassociate her opinions which are obviously racist, from the law, which she can appeal to and say that's the way things are set out. The problem is that people like her make the law and interpret the law in certain ways, which is what she's doing with language here. So you create precedents and then you say something is prohibited, but wrong? You're not going to say that.
And is prohibited, and people who are discriminated against under the law, obviously the work I also do in...
You see, under the law, right?
In terms of employment discrimination, if someone is discriminated against based on a protected category, that is something that that's protected against under the Constitution.
But it's not wrong.
Right. So she brought in the protected characteristic or protected category. And it's that protected category business is one of the most dangerous things to any legal system that I can think of, because we know here in Britain what's happening, where people who are regarded as being in a protected category are actually breaking the law, but they're not being arrested for it because they're in a protected category. Or they're breaking social conventions and practices which would normally get them at least removed. I'm thinking about men dressed up in frocks with a little bit of slap on their faces and a wig going into women's changing rooms and lavatories. And normally, up to recently, that would be something that would get them removed, but they are in a protected category. So you're creating hierarchies of legal application. Incredibly dangerous. Well, we all know about the two-tier policing, which we are going to be talking about on the 27th of July. Anyway, and she is... this Honourable Kelly Brisbane is buying into this, possibly because it's to her advantage.
Wrong. I mean, you can't just say it's wrong.
I suppose it's Senator Hawley. If it's Congressman Hawley, I'm sorry, the American system is a little bit opaque to me. He has picked up on that. He's a bright chap, you know. We all should admire him for his direct speech and his ability to focus in on the arguments. I am sitting here focusing on them in the quiet of, well, the other side of my attic.
I'm trying to understand why you're splitting the hairs the way you're splitting them.
Senator, I'm not splitting hairs. Discrimination is illegal.
Did you see that? I'm not splitting hairs. Discrimination is, she couldn't say wrong. It's illegal. Yeah, you know, there's times when, I know in New York, where the last I heard of it, it was legal to park your car on the left side of the road. And then after a certain time in the morning, you had to park on the right side of the road. It was something like that. Now, so it's illegal, say, during the hours of, say, 8 to 8 during the day. It's illegal to park on the left. You have to park on the right. And then from 8 until 8 in the morning, it's illegal to park on the right. You have to park on the left. Now, it's illegal if you're on the wrong side of the road. Is it wrong? Is it basically a wrong thing to do? No, but it is illegal. There's a huge difference.
But my question to you is, discrimination against Asian Americans is wrong, yes?
Discrimination against anyone is wrong. Yeah.
Look, Judge Perez...
She couldn't say the Asian Americans. And in America, of course, Asian Americans refers to, Chinese mostly, or people of Chinese heritage, or somewhere along that side of the continent. In Britain, they refer to Indians as Asians. The whole system of that is wrong. Why people can't say people of subcontinental heritage or Pakistani heritage or Chinese heritage. So he himself is prevaricating, but of course he's just going with the general expression that people use in America.
Let me just finally ask you here, and I'll have some more questions for others of you for the record, but our time is very limited. I just want to ask you about something you said in some interviews when you were running for judge. You were critical of mandatory minimum sentences. You called them political in nature. Is that still your view, that mandatory minimum sentences are problematic? You're an opponent of those?
Thank you for the question, Senator.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Again, but you heard the thanks for the question. And again, she looks sideways. She's trying to think of a suitable answer. She is not acting honestly. She is not speaking honestly. Is that illegal? No. Is it wrong? 100%. Now, I did say I was going to be talking about DEI and what happened at the Trump rally. I haven't forgotten that. But this is the sort of attitude that she is, the Honourable Kelly Brisbane, is displaying the sort of attitude that's infected both America and Britain. And so far as I know, it's sort of creeping over throughout the Anglosphere. That is, of choosing people based on their protected or obvious characteristics. And so you're going to get the wrong people in the wrong job. Now, I'm not so sure that Cheadle is to blame for what was going on, because the Secret Service weren't entirely in control of that operation. And some of it was Homeland Security or whatever. And I honestly don't know which was which. But she certainly isn't tough enough with her staff. That's for sure. And it's quite obvious that some of the people were incompetent and some were just not up to the job. For instance, the small women trying to protect with their bodies the body of a man who's over 6 foot tall. The Secret Service women should not have been employed in that particular job. I've been through this in a previous video. They might be very competent in other fields. The problem is when you're picking people just because you want a proportion, a certain proportion, and you just take anybody to go into that proportion, like what happened in Harvard and Yale, I believe. I do know Harvard. Then you're going to get people who aren't up to the job, who just aren't the right fit for the job. And it's very dangerous and it's very corrosive to any society. Any society. I'm using this as an example of somebody doing doublespeak, but it's happening all over. It's not just in America. It's just a shining example. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.